Let's talk about what to do when you get to the queue. I met a wonderful woman in a Cracker Barrel parking lot on the way here to Quartzsite, Arizona, and she's going to be new to the area too. So I wanted to make a video for her, and I thought, why not share it with everyone? So I watched dozens, maybe 100 videos about Quartzsite before I decided to come here, and I was really confused about the BLM land and 14 days, and is it free, is it 20 bucks, is it 180 bucks, all that stuff. So here's what I would suggest when you first get here. There are 5 BLM locations right very close to Quartzsite that are free for 14 days. 14 out of 28 days. So in other words, you can't go 14 days here, 14 days there, 14 days there. Any of them combined, 14 days in a 28-day period. So for the next 14 days, you got to go do something else. But here's why I suggest that you go to High Jolly. High Jolly is the one that I'm staying at, and it is 2-3 miles from Main Street. So it's the closest one, and it's free. So whether you're going to be there for a day or up to the 14 days, it'll give you a chance to get out, whether you got a motorcycle like I do, or a tow car, or Kelly who's in a van. At least if you got a home base, you can go scout around and decide what you want to do. So I've been here for 4 or 5 days, and I've decided to go to Yuma for a little bit and come back in January. But now I know where all these places are that I looked up on these videos, because I had a chance to leave my rig, decompress, get out and ride around. Another thing to know is, yes, $180 for, it's like a 7-month season. It's September 15th until April 15th. That the $180 gets you the ability to stay in other BLM that are called long-term visitor areas. And one of them, La Posa South, has water and a dump station and trash. You got to know where to go take your trash while you're here if you're not in one of the long-term areas. And there is a transfer station. That's another reason to go to High Jolly. High Jolly is within 1 mile of the transfer station, which is open Sunday through Wednesday, 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. during the winter time. So it's super easy. It's like a mile away. You can drop your trash, head into town, scoot around. Now, the one that has the water, word on the street is, yeah, it's got water, and sure, it's potable. You can drink it, but it is so full of minerals that it can mess up your water tank and your pipes with all the just the sediment and stuff. So there's a couple of places in town that specifically what they do is they sell water, and they do it depending on how many feet long your rig is. So for example, my rig is 30 feet, and I think it's $6 to fill it up. It's anywhere between $6 and $10 depending on the size of your rig to get water. So even if I do come back and stay at the $180 for 7 months, blah, 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 with the free water, I don't think I'd want to use their water. Besides that, come end of December and January, this area goes from 3,400 normal, regular residents, annual residents, to about 700,000 to 1 million RVers. So these long-term areas are so full. There are going to be people lined up for that free water and free dump. Now they're going to be lined up for the $6 to $10 fill up of water too, but I don't think they'll be quite as lined up as they will be in the places where they can get it for quote-unquote free or part of their $180 thing. Now you'll hear also that the long-term visitor area, LTVA, is going to be going up to $600 next year. I don't know about that. I'm not worried about next year. I'm talking about for the 2024 to 2025 season, it's 180 bucks. But another thing about this area, the reason High Jolly, I love learning. What's the deal with the camels? You see the camels on the signs and camels and stuff around Arizona. And Hi Jolly, where did they come up with that name? When I get to an area, I end up learning more about it in a week or two than the locals who've lived here for 20 years would know. So here's what I learned. Way back in the 1800s, way back before 1900 came around, the U.S. government thought it might be smart to bring camels, because this is a desert, so bring camels for them to use instead of horses. So they brought in a bunch of camels, and they brought in a guy whose name was, now I'm not going to pronounce it right, but that's why they called him Hi Jolly, because they couldn't pronounce it either. So it was an Arab name, and when you look it up, you can see why they're like, oh, he's Hi Jolly. So that's why they called him that. So they brought the camels, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. So the government let the camels go free in the desert to fend for themselves. Imagine that. So Hi Jolly, even though they quit using his services, he stayed here in Quartzsite for many, many years and died in 1902. There's actually a monument for him that is not at the Hi Jolly campground. It's in town. And so he died in 1902, but the camels, God bless them, outlived him, and they say that the last reported camel sighting was in 1942. So these poor camels are out in this desert fending for themselves, and they did. They made it for several decades. I don't know what, I mean, there's coyote and probably mountain lion and whatever around here that probably was their demise. But that's a little bit of the history of Quartzsite, and an easy way to get your boots on the ground, get a feel for what's going on. Don't worry about water or dumping. There's plenty of places to do it, and it's cheap. So go to Hi Jolly and then cruise around like I did. And one more little tip. You're in Quartzsite, which is for quartz, which means there's gems here. And they have their big gem show come January. There'll be, you know, lots of vendors for that. Right now, though, there are lots of vendors here, and some of the vendors, you'll notice, are charging 3 times what other vendors are charging. So when I first got here, there's a gas station right at the end of Main Street that has a couple of warehouses right across the little way. There's a couple of warehouses, Natural something or other. That place, big, wide open warehouse space with table after table after table, probably a football field worth of gems. You know, there's some skulls, there's raw gems, all that type of stuff. They're the cheapest in town. Some of the other places I walked into were charging 3 or 4 times what that place was charging, because they buy it from there and then go do a retail on the side of the road. And Gem World, which has a huge selection, I don't know, man. The juju in there is weird. Now, half of Gem World is full of jewelry making stuff, like, and I did go in there and get some peace signs, strings and strings of peace signs for $1 a piece that I can put on my jackets and whatnot. So if you need jewelry making stuff and all the copper wire and gems and things, it's a good place to go for jewelry stuff. But I don't know. It was weird for, I didn't want to buy gems. I also actually bought some Palo Santo and some sage, super, super cheap in there. So a little bundle of sage, you can get as cheap as 70 cents a piece, and then other places are selling them for $4, $5, $6 a piece. So you just gotta have to look around. So enjoy Quartzsite, and January is when the big mineral shows, and the 3rd week in January is when they have the huge RV show, which is when the 700,000 to 1 million RVers are here. So let me know if you're coming, and we'll see about maybe getting together while we're here for the RV show. Later.